So Deontay Wilder in his rematch with Bermane Stiverne successfully defended his WBC Heavyweight Championship by first round knockout. He knocked out the only guy to take him the distance. The first time the only man to take him the distance, period. The only man, I guess, to put that one imperfection on his record of 39-0 with 38 knockouts now. Easy work for Wilder. I mean, basically, for the first clean punch that he landed, that right hand straight down the pipe, caught Stiverne, dropped him on his ass, and Stiverne was pretty much ready to go at that point. He just looked relegated, like to he knew what was coming. Basically, he knew that it was going to end very well for him. I think he kind of knew that to begin with. He wasn't in very good shape. I mean, shit, and he got dropped by Derek Rossi in his last fight, which was his only fight since the first fight with Wilder, coming off a long layoff. Just didn't look like he was in the best of shape, the shop worn, shelf worn, etc. Wilder took care of business. And then he called out Anthony Joshua, which is good. I'm glad he's trying to cut directly to the chase, not really beating around the bush. I mean, and sometimes words can ring hollow because of the fact that, you could talk all you want about, I want to fight this guy or that guy or whatever, but it doesn't necessarily always come down to just wanting it, just verbally saying it. There's a lot of paperwork and negotiation factors involved too that sometimes get in the way of things that otherwise you'd imagine would be able to just be able to be quickly verbally agreed upon and then happen thereafter. But all the pressing about Deontay Wilder fighting Dillian Whyte, I mean, I get it from a perspective of trying to build up the fight between Wilder and Joshua to be even bigger, in terms of, you fight, a UK fighter, possibly in the UK or in the US, whatever, and then you could fight Joshua. But I mean, to me, there's no need for seasoning or building up or you got basically the two best heavyweights on the planet, aside from I guess Tyson Fury if he ever decides to step back in the ring and put down the coca, but it's a clash that to me just has to happen. It should be in demand from any fan of boxing, period. Regardless of where your allegiances might be, where your fandom might be, what have you. The fight should happen, and if either or both guys are being a pain in the ass about signing on the dotted line and getting it done, then, they deserve to be kind of called out for it. And not only that, but, shamed for it and shamed into taking the damn fight, almost not unlike Saul Canelo Alvarez was kind of eventually shamed and backed into a corner of taking the fucking Golovkin fight. It took a while, but eventually he managed to kind of to relent and actually get the fight made. And unfortunately, didn't necessarily live up to all that it was built upon. But I think Wilder Joshua, it's a fight that has to happen. I don't want to see another Gamboa versus Juanma situation happen. There's a fight that was stretched on for way too long. Juanma wound up almost losing to what was that dude's name? Rogers Matagua, and then he did lose to Salido, the perennial spoiler, and then Gamboa kind of went off into the to the sunset of general inactivity until finally losing to Terence Crawford. Not to say that would necessarily happen here in terms of the Gamboa portion of it, but the Juanma portion is very much something that can happen. This is heavyweight boxing. Not only is the fact that in boxing anything can happen. There's always the possibility for a big underdog, a heavy underdog, or what have you, to upset the odds and land that one shot or have that great performance that they may have always been had the potential to have, and then pull off something crazy. Or even just the fact that one of these guys may get caught slipping, Wilder or Joshua. Lennox Lewis got caught slipping against Hasim Rahman. It's something that can happen. It's something that can happen at a moment's notice, and especially so in the heavyweight division when you got guys that can really crack. And most of the top fighters at heavyweight at this moment are pretty big punchers. They're guys that They hit you at the right spot at the right time, and they're doing damage to you. They're doing serious damage, and they might knock you out, spark you out. Um, it might be over. It might be game over for you, and it might be game over for the potential that exists between Wilder and Joshua right now. Two undefeated knockout artists, heavyweight champions in their prime. The fight should happen, man. That's pretty much all I got to say about it. I mean, there's not really much to review here. Wilder took care of business like I felt he would. Like I think anybody with any sense about them thought that he would. Considering the first fight and considering Stiverne's general inactivity, Wilder's semi-improvement. I think that he's improved since their first fight. I think he's gotten a little bit stronger, a little bit. He has a little more tenacity about him than he had initially. I always think that a few years ago he didn't necessarily have as much confidence in his ability as he does now. He has a lot more sturdiness to him. I'll say that. Not even just mentally, but physically as well. That's just the sense that I get from him. I think Joshua, there's still just a tad of gift to him, even though he is a little bit more thoroughly tested because of the Klitschko fight. I mean, Wilder doesn't have somebody that's as experienced to really take him into that deep water and really force him to dig deep in that same way that Klitschko did with Joshua. But I mean, it is what it is. There isn't another Klitschko for Wilder to be able to fight, to have those experiences against. Vladimir's retired, Vitali's been long since retired, and so those vets really just don't exist at the heavyweight division. Luis Ortiz could have maybe provided some of that, but I mean, he had his whole issue with high blood pressure medication. Which it still cracks me up, man. It's really unfortunate because I actually like Ortiz, But hey, it is what it is. You got to play by the rules, and if you fail to adhere to them, then I mean you get what you get. It is what it is, and that's all there is to it. So Wilder pulled off the big win. I want to see Wilder versus Joshua next. I don't give a shit who else is in the way, mandatories, what have you. All these guys that are trying to line up and everything. I didn't get a chance to do a post-fight review of Joshua versus Takam. I thought that they kind of salvaged Joshua's undefeated or permanent or perfect knockout streak that he's had. I guess that's the one leg up he has over Wilder, along with the Klitschko win too. But Takam was giving him a lot of difficulty. Although Takam, I think, would give Wilder just as much difficulty, if not more. But I mean, Joshua versus Wilder, even though I think Joshua is, technically speaking, more skilled than Wilder, Wilder's unorthodox kind of fighting style is something that, could potentially upend somebody like Joshua. Not unlike Ricardo Mayorga upended Vernon Forrest. Not unlike Marcos Maidana almost upended Floyd Mayweather in the first fight. It's one of those things. Or just because somebody looks maybe their style may look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing or technically complete and rounded, doesn't necessarily mean that a guy that may have some of those rougher edges can't utilize those rougher edges in a fashion that makes them extremely effective. Not only just like in terms of being able to score and win rounds, but it's extremely effective in just doing damage and doing just blunt force harm to their opponent, not unlike, the aforementioned guys like Mayorga, Maidana, etc. Wilder has quite a bit of that same mentality, that same tenacity, and I think it's definitely grown with him. He definitely believes in his power, and he's looking to detonate that with full force, those shots on everybody that comes across his path. It could get him in trouble too in the future, but that remains to be seen as to if somebody can actually exploit those flaws. I mean, there are definitely flaws there, but it's a matter of if somebody can exploit them. And the fact is, he has been improving, and if it's one of those things that to me it's a relatively even fight. I still slightly favor Joshua in the showdown when they happen to meet, but that power is definitely something to be believed. But that's going to do it for this one. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.